Hello and welcome to episode 3 of my week of neutral looks with my McGrath palette here on my channel. Today we're doing a look with an eyeshadow that you would not have seen coming. I promise you, you've seen the palettes from the thumbnail, but you have no idea which eyeshadow is going to be the center of this look, and I think you're going to be surprised. Also, since I pretty much tested negative, I'm allowed to go to our lab barbecue in a little bit, so I'm actually getting ready to do that. I've already applied eyeshadow primer, brows, concealer, and I'm going to do my foundation. I'm going to take the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. I'm very curious whether my next one will be a natural or an artificial booster, because I suspect that there's going to be another booster campaign in like the fall winter time, as usually with like flu shots, and I have started taking the flu shot the last couple of years because now I have a toddler and the toddler brings everything at home, and trust me, you want to have all the protection you can have when you have a toddler running around. So I expect that COVID will just become a part of that kind of campaign. Now I had 3 vaccines and 2 natural boosters. You would think that I'm safe for a really long time. And yet I have the looming feeling that I am not. I'm going to powder using my ambient lighting powder from Hourglass in the shade Dim Light. As I am filming this, there is exactly 1 week left until the release of the last 2 episodes of Stranger Things, and you have no idea how hyped I am. I cannot wait to see how this season ends, because by all accounts, based on the trailer and based on what the Duffer Brothers have said, this season is probably not going to wrap up with a nice, complete, positive ending. It's probably going to be a bit more of a cliffhanger and a story that will continue and be resolved in the next season, which will also be the last season of Stranger Things, coincidentally. For bronzer today, I am going to go into an oldie but a goodie. I'm going to take my MAC Delphic bronzer, really old. There is still so much more product in here that you would think I haven't used this bronzer at all, and yet this is at this point I think my oldest and my most used bronzer in my whole collection. And when I say my most used, I mean I have used it a lot. How is it possible that it barely shows any sign of wear? For my blush, I think I'm going to go with something rather cheerful, so I'm going to grab the Blushing Delights palette from McGrath and take the Coral shade, which is one of her new baked blushes. And I need to be very careful because these are advertised as being buildable and they're not buildable. They are very spreadable, but they're not buildable. They pack such a punch that if you go in with your blush brush and you just go like wham, then you are not going to be able to build this blush up. You're just going to immediately look like bozo. I haven't used my Divine Rose highlighter in a while, and I think it's going to fit with the look really nicely. So I'm going to take a little bit of this highlighter from McGrath Labs and highlight my cheekbones with that. Okay, let me zoom you in and tell you about the eyeshadow that we're going to use today that you're going to be really shocked about. So let's look at my Nocturnal Nirvana quad. You saw it in the thumbnail and you were probably thinking, how on earth are we going to do a neutral look with this quad? And the answer is, we're going to use my least favorite eyeshadow in here, the one that you can see is barely touched and is just among all the golds from McGrath, and I love her golds. A lot of her golds are some of my favorite eyeshadows in my collection. This one does not count as one of them, so it's this shade over here. However, as I was looking at it yesterday, I thought, is there a way to spruce it up? Also because it is a gold that leans on the more neutral side. So something like Gold Standard or the Crazy Gold shade from the Divine Rose 2 palette wouldn't really fit with my neutral look series, but this gold would totally fit in here, and it would also be a little bit of a challenge for me to try and use this shade in a context that maybe I will enjoy more, and it will lead me to use this, shade in this palette that I hardly ever touch more often than I have in the past. So this is going to be our hero star of the look today. I mean it. Obviously, there's going to be something layered over top of that to make it more interesting, but let's take this one step at a time. I'm first going to grab the Metamorphosis eyeshadow palette, and frankly, you can take any eyeshadow palette that you have that has a somewhat warmer, like mid-transition brown shade. I grabbed this one because it was the easiest one and the closest one to me, and I'm just going to take this caramel brown shade, which by the way is extremely similar to the caramel brown shade that is in the Midnight Sun palette. And I'm just going to use this shade as a transition, as something to define my crease a little bit better. So I'm taking this shade and just running that here through my crease. While this lighting is very flattering for my skin. I don't know whether that's coming across on camera, but in real life my skin looks a lot smoother than it usually does. I applied a generous amount of this shade also through my outer corner because I don't really intend on applying another shade to deepen up the look. I want to keep it nice, simple and light because, like I said, I'm going to a little lab barbecue and there's no need to look super glam for that. Next, as per usual, I'm going to take a little bit of glitter glue and I'm going to use my NYX glitter glue. I'm going to stamp a little bit of that here onto the moving lid and inner corners, just so we can give that gold shade from Pat the best chance to shine. Because on a swatch it always looks really impressive, but then when I put it on my lids it kind of like fails to achieve the same effect. So let's just do the best we can. I'm also going to use my fingers because I know that these shades always deliver the most impact when they are applied with finger. And let's see what we can achieve here. I mean, like this with the brown, it's actually really nice. I think I've probably never used this shade in the correct context, and I really dislike it in the context of this specific quad. I just think it doesn't fit at all in there. But like this with other eyeshadows around it, maybe I'm going to start enjoying this more, because now that I have these two shades on my lids, I actually think this looks really, really pretty and really soft. And the type of like neutral gold that I think would be more people's like comfort zone than something like Gold Standard or the really bright gold that's in the Divine Rose 2 palette or in the Utopian Dream palette. You know, these are much brighter, much more glittery golds, whereas this one is in her Blitz formula, so it's very smooth, doesn't really have any sparkle to it, but it still retains like those light and neutral tones without being too cool toned, as is the case, for example, with the gold from the Divine Rose 1 palette, which for my taste sometimes leans just a little bit too cool. This is actually quite pretty. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back into this palette and apply just a tiny bit more of this gold into my inner corners, because I don't really feel like busting anything else out, and I think this is light enough to go into the inner corners. And then we're going to proceed with our pairing portion. And for the layering portion of this video, I'm sure you're also going to be surprised by the choice of shade that I have made. And that's going to be a shadow that I haven't really pulled out on my channel for layering in a really long time. And you guys know it was one of my favorites about a year ago, shortly after this quad came out. And that is the shade here called Lavendering. I just think these two might make such an interesting combination when you like rub them in with each other. So I cannot wait to put this over top of the gold and see what happens. And again, I'm going to like layer it like this and then work it with my finger into the gold so that the two kind of melt with each other to create one shade. That's an interesting effect, I have to say. So if you wanted to kill the gold tones of that eyeshadow, just layer Lavendering over top of that and it will neutralize it even further, because it adds a little bit of like that super pale green base that it has, and it kind of neutralizes the gold. And we still retain a little bit of the gold shade in the inner corner, so it's not even completely lost from the look. I am digging how this is turning out. Like I said, I'm going to keep it nice and easy, and for my lower lash line I'm just going to go back into that camel brown shade and run that on my lower lashes. Alright, I hope you were able to enjoy this makeup look despite all the amount of sun that is getting into my bedroom right now and probably washing everything out. I completed the look with a nice like camel toned lipstick to match up with what's going on in my crease, and I chose this super old lipstick from Urban Decay. It was part of a limited edition collection with Jean-Michel Basquiat, but I think if you were to put something like a Fair from Lisa Eldridge, you would be pretty much in the same ballpark. I just wanted something a little bit creamier because, like I said, I'm going to a barbecue in a bit and this is just going to come off really, really quickly. I must tell you, I'm highly surprised that this gold eyeshadow has redeemed itself and now gained my attention. I think I might try using it a bit more often, especially in like a more neutral look with like a bit of a brown crease and just on my lid, either with or without a topper, because I actually quite enjoyed it even without Lavendering over top of that. Let me know what you thought about this look. Would you consider using this gold shade a bit more often yourselves now? Because I know that a lot of you have this quad and a lot of you feel very similarly about this gold eyeshadow. I hope you enjoyed this look. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!